on a Sunday. All right.
Mr.
Happy
Liam,
Mother's Day, Ben.
happy Mother's Day, Mr. Gallegos. Not that you're my mother.
We
had
are
a friend of
brothers
mine-
from another mother.
I had a friend of mine call me up and she said, "How come you didn't wish me Mother's Day?" I said, "You're not my mother." But then I realized that you have to say Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers you know. So to all the mothers I know, including my beautiful mother back in Lawrence, New York, Happy Mother's Day. And Happy Mother's Day, Happy Mother's Day to you, my friend Liam, because you're probably a mother to somebody.
Yes, we are.
You have a pet? You got a cat or a dog?
We got a daughter.
You got a daughter. All right, good. All right, cool. So an article came out this week, or I saw it this week. I don't know if it came out this week. It actually came out a couple weeks ago, I believe, on ultra-processed food. This is from Medscape, referring to an article from the I think it's a British Medical Journal, BMJ. Ultra-processed food exposure and adverse health outcomes. Umbrella review of epidemiological meta-analysis. As it turns out, ultra-processed food is related to early demise. It's related to health challenges. It's related to adverse conditions. And this should fall under the category of no crap, Sherlock. I don't know if we could say words on LinkedIn, but you know what I'm saying? It seems so obvious.
Absolutely.
That ultra-processed food by definition are foods that are made from processed foods. They're made from processing chemicals. They're really not even foods, and they're sold and they're marketed for their durability, for their shelf life, as well as for their palatability, for their taste. And these days, according to the statistics that I've read, up to 70% of the calories that we ingest come from these ultra-processed foods. Most people are conditioned to hear about processed foods, but really processed foods is kind of a vague term because cooking is a type of processing. So when we cooked our meat, we've been cooking our meat for hundreds of thousands of years. That's a type of processing. 10,000 or so years ago, we learned how to crush grains so that they became edible, crush seeds, grains being seeds, so they became edible. And that's also a type of processing. But these days, our calories come from ultra-processed foods. And these ultra-processed foods form the bulk of our caloric intake. And a lot of these ultra-processed foods are considered to be health foods. Things like power bars and Cliff bars and various nutritional shakes. Those fall into the category of ultra-processed foods, some of them, not all of them. The point being that the health challenges that we suffer from, and it should be pretty obvious to anybody who's following these things, that we are a sick culture. 60% of Americans suffer from at least one chronic disease, 40% suffer from 2 chronic diseases, and 20% of Americans suffer from 5 chronic diseases. There are some 30 million diagnosed diabetics and probably 100 million diagnosed pre-diabetics, and only God knows how many people haven't even been diagnosed and who have messed up blood sugar or dysglycemia. Now, I do all kinds of health programs and presentations where I talk to folks, I answer questions, and invariably people will want to have some kind of remedy, some kind of nutritional remedy for their chronic health challenges, for their diseases. But if we don't address the intake of foods, if we don't address the perturbations in energy in the body, and I'll tell you what I mean by that here in a second, there's no way we're going to get healthier by approaching our health challenges with the modern medical strategies of drugs and devices and surgeries and ablations and radiations and all the other strategies that we use to address our health issues in this country and around the world. When I talk about energy intake, this is very important to understand. See, the body's goal in life is to get energy. To get energy, number one, from food through the digestive system, and then to distribute that energy through the blood system to the cells. And the currency of that energy is glucose, is sugar. And so what we've done over the last 10,000 years, really, but really over the last 100, 150 years, is we created a major disturbance in how the body obtains energy. Number one, by providing the body with dense forms of energy in terms of sugar. And this is one of the major problems associated with processed food, in combination with micronutrient deficiencies. You put that second article up, Liam. And this is really where the problem comes from. We are intaking macronutrient energy in the form of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, especially the sugars, the refined carbohydrates, but really all macronutrients, proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, with a special emphasis on the refined carbohydrates, which make up the bulk of the calories in these ultra processed foods, the refined carbohydrates. We're giving the body lots of these macronutrient energy sources, energy foods, without providing the micronutrients. This is why micronutrient supplementation is so important. You see, the job of micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, fatty acids, the mighty 90 essential nutrients, is to help the body use the energy from the macronutrients, the proteins and fats and carbohydrates. And so our problems today arise from giving the body too much energy without helping the body utilize that energy, or without helping the body incorporate that energy into chemical reactions. This is what micronutrients do. They help the body incorporate energy into making collagen and growth and repair, and providing the raw material, the energy for neurotransmitter synthesis, and all the things the body has to do. And so this large input of energy, in combination with a lack of micronutrients, accounts for the bulk of our physical health challenges. The body is not able to handle all this energy. So what is the solution? Well, you got a couple solutions. First of all, you can reduce your intake of calories. A calorie, calor means heat, is a unit of heat. Energy, food energy, is measured by calories. So one of the most important things you could do if you're dealing with some kind of health challenge, or even if you're not and you just want to increase your health, increase your longevity, is reduce your calories. We only need around 800 to 1,000 calories a day, the average person. If you're an athlete, or if you're pregnant, or if you're recovering from surgery, or there's times in our lives when we need more calories, but if the average person doesn't need more than 1,000 or 1,200 calories, 800 to 1,200 calories, let's say, we're getting 3,000 or 4,000 calories. We're getting 3 or 4 times what we need, and we're getting those calories without the micronutrients. So the first thing to do is reduce your caloric intake. This is where fasting, by the way, becomes really important. Fasting, number one, obviously you're going to reduce your caloric intake by fasting, but fasting also cleans the body out. Fasting supports a biological process called autophagy, autophagy. Autophagy is the body cleaning itself out. Autophagy means self-eating. The body will actually clean out dysfunctional cells or dead cells. It'll clean out materials that it doesn't need. And not only does fasting improve the autophagy, the cleaning out of dead cells, but it also improves elimination. There's a neuroelectrical muscular complex in the alimentary canal, the digestive tract, called the migrating motor complex. The migrating motor complex kicks in when we stop eating. The migrating motor complex propels food through the digestive tract and out the body. Fasting activates the migrating motor complex. Even if the time between meals, the migrating motor complex will kick in. The migrating motor complex is suppressed by food. Why? Because when you're eating food, the object is for the body to be able to extract the nutrients from the food. So the migrating motor complex slows down so that the body can have the opportunity to extract the nutrients from food. Conversely, when there's no food in the migrating motor in the digestive tract, the migrating motor complex kicks in. This is why people will notice that when they don't eat, they actually, if they fast for a day or fast for even half a day, intermittently, that practice intermittent fasting, they have great bowel movements. One of the major causes of chronic constipation is snacking, is constantly eating. If you feel like you're dealing with chronic constipation, one of the best things you could do is stop eating. This will activate the migrating motor complex and food will get propelled out of the body. So fasting improves detoxification by autophagy and by activating the migrating motor complex. And of course, fasting is a great way to reduce caloric intake. Calories represent work for the body. When we eat food that is micronutrient deficient, we actually lose nutrients because nutrients are required to digest the food. So when we eat foods that are nutrient deficient, like ultra processed foods, not only do we not get the nutrients from the foods, but we actually lose nutrients because it costs us nutrients to process and digest the food. So fasting allows us to conserve our nutrient resources for growing muscle, for repairing, for fighting diseases, for building a reservoir of neurotransmitters, for having better skin, all the good stuff. You want to digest your food, or you want to have all the good stuff is really what it amounts to. So reducing your caloric intake is job number one if you want, if you're dealing with a chronic degenerative disease. If you don't want a full-blown fast, just reduce your calories, your daily intake of calories. Practice intermittent fasting. Skip breakfast. I always tell people breakfast is the most important meal to skip. If you skip breakfast, you'll extend your fast. Breakfast is breaking your fast. Breakfast means breaking your fast. If you skip breakfast, you'll be extending your fast. Stop eating at 4 in the afternoon and start eating again the next day at maybe 11. That whole period will represent a time for the body to not only clean itself out via autophagy and elimination through the digestive tract, but you'll also improve ketogenesis, the production of ketones, which are little nuclear bombs of energy. This is what the ketogenic diet is about, by the way. It's a low-calorie diet. When people think about the ketogenic diet, they think about low fat, high fat and low carbohydrate, which is true. The ketogenic diet is an 80%, 90% fat diet, but the real key to the ketogenic diet is low calories. So when people do the ketogenic diet, a lot of times they'll say, oh yeah, I can have French fries and bacon and potato chips and all these fatty foods. And what they're missing is the fact that a ketogenic diet is a low calorie diet. Yeah, a high percentage of fat, your calories come from fat, but the overall caloric intake for the day should be around 1,000 to 1,200 calories a day. Big Mac is like 800 calories. Big Mac and a French fries, and you've already got more calories than the average person needs. It's probably, 400, 500, 600 calories in small or medium sized French fries, another 800 calories in a Big Mac. So reducing your caloric intake is critical if you're dealing with a chronic degenerative disease or you want to improve longevity. The second thing is get on a micronutrient supplement program. So what Doc has been talking about, Dr. Wallach's been talking about for years. Micronutrients will allow you to get more energy from your macronutrients, your proteins and fats and carbohydrates. This is why people will notice when they get on a micronutrient supplement program, they eat less food because they're getting more energy from their macronutrients. And as far as the micronutrients go, my favorite micronutrient, I'm in the skin business. I've been doing skincare for decades, almost 40 years. Let me think here, 1982. Over 40 years, if you count my time working in the Blistex lab in college. And those 40 years, what I discovered is that the key to having beautiful skin is nutritional supplementation. Yeah, you want to have good topical products. And in fact, Truth Treatments, my skincare formulations are topical nutritional supplements. Topical fat-soluble vitamin C, topical vitamin A, topical vitamin E, topical zinc. And speaking of zinc, zinc is one of the most critical nutrients you could ever use when it comes to skin health and when it comes to preventing the impact of ultra-processed food upon health and longevity. Zinc deficiency is associated with aging. Zinc deficiency is associated with lousy skin. Zinc deficiency is associated with poor digestion. You need zinc to make hydrochloric acid. Zinc is important for detoxification. Zinc is important for the bones. Zinc is important for all kinds of enzymes. In fact, there's hundreds of different enzymes in the body that depend on zinc, and zinc deficiency is one of the more common nutritional deficiencies. I recommend zinc picolinate, 50 milligrams a day. A lot of times people take zinc and say, oh, it upset my stomach. That's usually the cheaper form of zinc, the zinc sulfate or there's another form of zinc gluconate. Zinc gluconate and zinc sulfate, those are not the best forms of zinc to take. And a lot of times people, when they take 50 milligrams of zinc gluconate or zinc sulfate, they'll get an upset stomach. Zinc picolinate, you don't have that problem. There's another form of zinc called zinc monomethionine, and this is a really exotic form of zinc. The best kind of zinc in terms of value is zinc picolinate because it's so cheap, and 50 milligrams a day will cost you a penny or pennies. When you're taking your zinc, you always want to take it with copper. Copper is another really important mineral that's associated with building connective tissue, building collagen, energy. It's also a very important detoxification mineral, and then it also plays a role in pigmentation, particularly pigmentation of the hair. And a lot of folks will use copper to help prevent, slow down, or even sometimes reverse graying of the hair. And by the way, my hair is silver; it's not gray. In case you're thinking, you're wondering about that. And hair coloration is not always associated with nutritional deficiencies. Hair coloration or hair discoloration, the loss of pigment in the hair, occurs throughout the animal kingdom. Wild animals will lose the coloration of their hair, and this has to do with the health of the follicles as well as melanin production in the hair. And there's some complexity that's involved in coloration of the hair. Nonetheless, copper is involved in melanin in pigment formation, and it's also important for cardiovascular health, collagen, and it has a really interesting role to play topically in healing. In fact, copper peptides have been used for decades now to accelerate the healing of the skin. So long story short, we got a serious health problem, a health crisis problem in this country. People are aging much faster than they need to age. They're sick, much sicker than they need to be. In fact, we've set the bar so low on health that we just expect to be sick as we get older. We expect to be on prescription drugs as we get older. We expect to be interacting with the medical model as we get older. We set the bar so low on health because for years, for decades, probably for centuries, we haven't realized that we have so much power over how our body shows up that chronic degenerative disease doesn't have to happen. In fact, chronic degenerative disease shouldn't happen. We should not have chronic degenerative disease from a biological perspective because it's in the body's nature to heal. And we're the descendants of ancestors who recovered from biological disruptions. Healing, the technical word for healing, if you think about it, is homeostasis. Homeostasis is when the ups go down and the downs go up, when the body pulls excesses down and it pulls deficiencies up. That's called homeostasis. And in essence, that's what healing is. And the body is the quintessential homeostatic system. The quintessential, the human biological mechanism is nothing if it's not a homeostatic mechanism that's designed to heal. Chronic degenerative disease should never occur. And from a physical perspective, you can rest most of our chronic degenerative disease issues on the way we're putting energy into the body through the digestive tract and the intestine and into the blood. We didn't talk about blood sugar as much as I'd like to, but one of the major signs of elevated blood sugar, or what I call dysglycemia, messed up blood sugar, is elevated cholesterol. We can talk about this on our next Restream cast, Liam. Cholesterol goes up when your blood sugar and your insulin go up. And both, by the way, are problematic. Blood sugar, elevated blood sugar, and elevated insulin. This gets us to the whole subject of insulin resistance and metabolic syndrome, which we'll talk about later. For now, I just want to leave you with this little tidbit. The reason our cholesterol goes up is because we've tricked the body into building. Cholesterol is a building molecule. We've tricked the body into building with all of the sugar that we're ingesting. And the more sugar you're ingesting, by the way, the more micronutrients you need. And by the way, the more drugs you're on, the more micronutrients you need. The more calories you're ingesting, the more micronutrients you need. And the more you're interacting with the medical model, particularly with surgeries, as well as ablations and radiation and drugs, of course, the more micronutrient supplementation you need. And this plays an especially important role in skin health because the skin is moving fast. Skin cells are growing fast. Skin cells and the cells of the digestive tract are dividing faster than any other cells in the body. And that makes the skin and the digestive tract, especially the health of the skin and the digestive tract, especially dependent on micronutrient supplementation. All right. I hope that was educational, informative, not TMI. Mr. Liam?
That was fantastic. I have a
Hosea 4.6. My people perish for lack of knowledge.
Yes.
That's what we're about. We're about sharing the information so we can have long, beautiful, healthy lives.
And I'd like to take one small paragraph out of the zinc article, if I may, and talk about it real quick. It says here, let's see if we can get this all together. It says here that research done by scientists suggests that it's especially important for elderly people to get adequate dietary intake of zinc. And we hear a lot about with with COVID that it was a disease of the elderly and how important zinc was. Do you have a quick insight to
quick insight.
The mechanisms between zinc and
zinc is extremely important for the immune system. In fact, there was a pharmacist many years. We studied zinc as being important for the immune system in pharmacy school, and there was a pharmacist who was so clever. He actually invented a product. I forgot the name of it, but you can buy it in drugstores now. That's nothing. Coldies, I think they call it. It's nothing more than zinc. It's zinc supplementation. We used to recommend zinc in the pharmacy for people who had sore throats to suck on zinc lozenges. You can actually buy zinc lozenges for sore throats. Using zinc is an important strategy for folks who are dealing with colds, and we've known this for many years. I've been talking about it since I graduated pharmacy school in the 1980s. But when this viral thing happened a couple years ago, zinc became such an important part of the protocol for fighting the virus that it was unavailable. You go to the health food stores, you couldn't find any zinc because it was so important for the immune system. And the second thing that you brought up is super important. Elderly people need micronutrients, especially zinc. And if you ever go to a nursing home and you see how people are suffering with lack of energy and with confusion and dementia and poor immune systems, a lot of that is because of the combination of what we just talked about. The kind of foods that they're eating, the high energy foods, the ultra processed foods that they're eating in combination with nutritional deficiencies. One of the best things you can give your parents or your grandparents who are in nursing homes is a micronutrient supplement like Beyond Tangy Tangerine. And you have to get it past the nurses there because they don't want them on micronutrient supplements.
Crazy.
Smuggle it in. I used to smuggle it into my dad when he was in the nursing home, and I got in trouble several times for doing it. But every time he drank some Beyond Tangy Tangerine, for folks who don't know, is an incredibly valuable micronutrient powder that you add to water and drink from Longevity. We talked about last week. For elderly people, they are especially susceptible to micronutrient deficiencies, and they are especially they especially benefit from micronutrient supplementation. And one of the cool things, Liam, about nutritional supplementation is the more your body needs the supplements, the faster they'll get absorbed. And so you'll find that elderly folks in nursing homes are prime candidates to enjoy the benefits of micronutrient supplementation, particularly zinc. And I think I mentioned this, balanced with copper. 50 milligrams of zinc, around 6 milligrams, 4 to 6 milligrams of copper glycinate, a good form of copper. Beyond Tangy Tangerine, by the way, features plant-derived minerals. I'd love to be able to talk about plant-derived minerals and what those really are on another Restream broadcast.
Outstanding information. I love that metaphor where you're saying that, the body's kind of like a sponge, I guess.
Yes.
So the more deficient you are, the more it wants.
Yes. A dry sponge sucks up more water than a wet sponge.
Right. Awesome. Well, fantastic,
All right, Liam.
Ben.
Thank you.
Great info, as always.
All right. And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.
Happy Mother's Day to all the Mother's Day out there. And leave your questions and comments in the various platforms, and we'll make sure Ben answers them on the next broadcast or within the comment section. All right, guys. Thanks for watching.